What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Collective Show. My name's Dan.
I'm Zach.
And today we are with Mr. Daniel Hill. What's going on?
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming back. The first time was almost a year ago, I want to say at this point.
That's crazy. Was it?
Yeah, I think so. And we had some technical difficulties, and then you had to run out the door. So
apologies.
We kiboshed that episode, and now we're here. Finally got you back. I think this is going to be a really value-packed episode for people because not only do you know a lot about Instagram, but you know a lot about Alexa. So I feel like people are going to get a lot from this.
Hell yeah, I'm excited to hear your story. If you guys haven't noticed, we are actually in the studio during quarantine. We broke out. We came back in. We're using real stuff.
Feels good to be back. We probably sound 5,000 times better. Before we get started, if you don't already follow us on social media, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, at Strix Media NJ, and sometimes at Strix Media, depending on what you're on. If you have not subscribed to our podcast yet, hit that subscribe button. It means the world to us. Let us know how we're doing in the reviews. Let us know if we're doing awesome. Tell us, someone that we should have on the show. Tell us if our voice is annoying. Really anything. We'd love to hear from you guys. And if you do leave us a review, screenshot the review, DM us on Instagram, and we'll send you some free stickers.
Like those. Look at that thing.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. That one's rainbow.
It shines. Look at that. Look at that shine.
And if you are tuning on Facebook and or YouTube, comment #live if you're joining us live, so we know that you're alive. And if you're watching on replay, comment #replay. I think that's it. Let's get into the show. Sorry, I had a Gary Vee there. I haven't done it yet on this. So, all right. Daniel, tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Daniel Hill. I live in central New Jersey, Woodbridge. It's home of the Cheerio. It's not the Cheerio. It wasn't invented in here, but maybe Bon Jovi. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so I teach small business owners how to use Instagram. That's what I do. I enjoy teaching people new technologies, whatever it is, if it's an app or whatever thing that they can take and learn to improve their business, how they do things, connect with more people, use their time more wisely. And so I decided a few years ago to focus on Instagram. And that's really the core of what I do. I teach people how to use it.
Awesome. So Daniel, for our listeners and our viewers, tell everyone like how you, let's take it back. How you got into the space. Did you have a passion for this? Did you go to school for this? Let's take it back to like high school days.
So in high school, I was a bit of a guy that didn't really fit in too much. I liked lifting weights and trying to figure out girls and, a lot of other things that I won't go into. But one of the things that I was really big on back in high school was AOL. And I spent a lot of time on AOL Instant Messenger. This was the 90s, so times were very different. But the moment that I realized I could have multiple conversations with girls at the same time, like it was just, I had this aha moment, because you could put each conversation, like on the phone, I could only talk to one girl.
I totally remember that.
But on AOL, I could talk to maybe 4, maybe 5 if I and that's really how I learned to type very quickly because, you can't do that 2-finger thing when you're talking to, anyway, it doesn't matter. So that was really what got me sort of interested in technology is a communication method. And over time, that's involved, right? Like so much of what we did on AOL, like sort of became part of the way we communicate through texting and then Facebook Messenger and, watching that transition. And I started spending more time around figuring out how I could build authority and teach people what I know. Cause I think that's a really interesting thing, to take a complicated topic and explain it to someone who didn't know that it existed, but maybe you can improve their lives because of it. And so my wife always says in the world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, right? And so many people don't understand technology. They don't understand what you can do with your phone or why you would even bother to do a certain thing. But to you and I, that makes perfect sense, right? So I spent a lot of time sort of figuring out what could I teach people that they would want to know Was it, how to remove viruses from your computer? Like, not really, no. Would it be using the Microsoft Office suite? Like maybe, but that's not really that interesting. And so as apps grew and so forth, I started spending more time on social media platforms, and Instagram jumped out at me as the big one. And I started doing some YouTube videos. And then in 2015, I got really involved with Snapchat when like stories were big, and I started documenting my life in stories. And I thought, this is like the thing. And so I pivoted away from Instagram and I went with Snapchat, and I started building a following on there. And then the second that Instagram launched stories, I was like, Snapchat is dead to me and I will never spend any more time on that platform. And I never did. But what was really cool was to be able to take those lessons that I learned from Snapchat and apply it somewhere else. And I thought, that's a thing that's going to kind of resonate. And it's going to be a pattern where whatever platform is big next, we're going to take the lessons from the first platform and apply it to the second platform. And that's been sort of something that's really helped me grow and expand my skills in the way that I teach people and the way that I convey information.
Hell yeah. So how did you get into helping small businesses?
So that's a thing where I noticed that there's a lot of confusion, right? Because some small business owners, they want to pay someone to handle their social media and they just don't want to think about it. Like, you take care of that. And for some people that makes total sense. But for a lot of people, I don't think it does, because to the extent that a small business owner can show the behind the scenes, their daily life, all the things that go into it, a social media company can definitely do it, but it conveys a different way coming from a small business owner or someone else who actually works at the company. So that was one of the reasons that I try to do it that way.
And I think that's a great point, because when we bring on social media clients, we always explain to them and try to set the expectations properly that it is a team effort, because it's not possible for us to convey what your business is about without you providing content or you being on camera or doing 5 to 25% of the work, because it requires you to make content. You couldn't pay us enough to be there every day. So that's where that I feel like a big gap in understanding what social media marketing can do for a small business.
Absolutely. And I never want to discredit any social media marketers, who work with companies very closely. Of course, that's important. But sometimes the way the owner or small business staff can convey it comes across in a very specific way that resonates.
Yeah, it's usually more like organic and raw and like personal. Whereas like if someone else were to take over, like it's hard to find someone's brand voice and stay, within something that's like not so advertising and markety sounding,
Exactly.
It's more genuine, and especially for the small business side.
Absolutely.
Cool. So real quick, just for our context, and I feel like we haven't asked this question a lot lately, but how old were you when you got started in this whole thing, and how old are you now?
So I'm not sure when you're referring to for the first part of the question. I would say that I started getting really involved in different kinds of technologies that I could teach people around like 2012, 2013, 14. And I was 32, 33 back then. And now I'm 40, which I'm still not cool with. Don't really have a choice, but yeah, I think that answers your question.
Cool. Well, you look like a really young ass 40, just saying.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that. I usually get my haircut really short, but right now is not a time for haircuts. So unfortunately, kind of got to deal with the gray and all that.
So how did you go about getting, some of those first clients in working with small businesses and, kind of growing that brand or growing your brand?
So one of the things that I think has been really important for me is just meeting people and just going out and explaining what I do over and over. So whether it's going to conferences and events or talking to people when I go to the gym, and just explaining what I do. And then when people see me filming myself, see me creating content at the gym, like they sort of connect the pieces. And so I'm always either looking for people to partner with and create content with, have on my podcast, make a video together, whatever. That's really been the biggest in-person way for me to grow my brand.
What's your podcast name? Let everyone know and where they could find it.
Sure. So my podcast is called the Instagram Stories Podcast. I actually have two. The Instagram Stories Podcast is where I interview experts about Instagram, get them to share their tips and strategies and so forth. And then I have the Instagram Stories, which is a daily podcast that you can get on Amazon Alexa or iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. And I share daily updates about Instagram. They're adding features, what the head of product just announced, or what he explained on his live and why that's relevant, how brands could use that to grow. So it's micro content. It's very small form, disposable, but I have two, and they're both called the Instagram Stories.
Very cool.
Yeah, and what's really great about that particular thing, and we bring it up all the time on the podcast, is that like no one knows when Instagram releases something new. Like they don't just tell the world. Like you have to almost like figure it out, and you have to do a lot of research to even get to a point where you can understand what a new thing is and what's been out for a long time.
Or you might not even have the feature.
Right. And that's the most frustrating part. Sometimes I'll talk about a feature and people will send me a message or they'll send me a DM using it. And I'm like, well, that's great. I wish I had that. Right. And it took me, I had the music sticker, not right away, but then I had it and then it disappeared and I didn't have it for another like 18 months. And then I switched to a creator account and then it came back. And like to the end user, like talk about the world's most frustrating experience, right? So I get people who send me messages. How did I lose the music sticker? Well, I don't know, but maybe try this or try that. But you're right. It's very hard to track all the new features that come out. So that's sort of what I've taken on. And I saw that was a place where I could provide some unique value, because there's a lot of people out there who know way more about Instagram than I do, who have way more followers than I do, better photography, better videography, more time to edit content and create. And that's great. But I was thinking, how can I sort of bring my own unique perspective in a way that people can recognize me and I can build authority that way? And when I started this whole thing, I actually had the name, the Instagram Stories. And when I submitted it to Amazon, they said, no, the word Instagram is trademarked. And I said, that's okay. Who cares? It's trademarked. Like, I'm talking about it. So that's how you know what it is. And they said, no, you can't do that. And so I sort of tried to figure out how I can make that work. And they kept saying no. So I went to Instagram and after a lot of back and forth and discussion with their legal team, they gave me permission to use that trademarked name and their logo in my branding, which is super nice of them. I don't know if that will last forever. It's been almost, I guess, about 18 months now. And so that's really helped me ride the wave, because people are searching for information about Instagram. They find me. Who is Daniel? Well, they were never searching for Daniel Hill probably, but now that they've searched for information on Instagram and they found me, now they're going to follow me and benefit from the content that I'm putting out. So that's sort of been my like strategy on how I could ride that wave to grow my brand.
That's awesome. Real quick, let's segue and then we'll get back into your story. What do you think about the new features that dropped? I think this morning it might have been, or maybe last night.
Which ones are you referring to?
Cards. I was just opening up my app. Let's see. The gift cards came up on Insta today.
Yeah. So the gift cards, I think, are going to be a really big one for businesses. And they're also testing stickers that would enable users to promote business profiles in their stories. What I think is super cool about this is, right?
Wait, explain that a little bit further.
So that one, that's like
tag a profile in a way.
Right. So I'll get to that one second, but
yeah,
just the logistics of this, right? Like, we're all working from home. We're all less productive in whatever means. We're not operating at 100%. Instagram is cranking out new features. Like it's almost like they're adding people somehow or doing something, because they've just been so focused on continually adding new features during this time. So the one that I'm talking about, it's just like coming out sort of in beta right now, but there's a share professional sticker that would enable users to add an Instagram or to tag an Instagram profile and then bring in the thumbnails of the 3 most recent posts from that account. So then basically you can like shout out, guys, this is my favorite pizzeria. Look, here's some of their recent posts. And then you can add the sticker to buy a gift card or for fundraiser or whatever. So what they're really trying to do is, how can we help small businesses during this time? Which is a really great question. Like, I feel like a lot of people are saying we need to help, but what are they actually doing? And I don't want to like get too deep into politics or whatever, but these are things where people are spending normally, when times are good, 35 minutes a day staring at Instagram. Now we're all home and that time has gone up through the roof. And they're saying, what tools can we actually add so that people can make the best use of this time for small businesses?
No, that's really great. I love that. So Damn, I've completely forgot what I was gonna say.
Can I ask you guys a question? Is it
Damn
that kind of form?
Yeah.
So do you guys remember how I found you in the first place?
I don't. I thought it was the networking event.
So I actually came across the Bliss batter protein pancakes video way back when. And I just want to say, because I watched it again recently, I still love that video. Shout out to Kelly. I think you guys worked really hard on that and you crushed it. And when I saw that video, I just said, I don't know who made this, but these are the kind of people that I want to know. If you have not seen the Bliss batter pancakes video, go YouTube it, watch it. It's great. One of my favorite things on YouTube.
Awesome. Thank you. And the funny thing is that was like one of our first.
That was our first
really serious 2-day production.
Yeah, we actually flew out to Boston to film that.
Shout out to Rob Jack. I think he's watching right now. One of my best friends who let us stay at his house for free, and then also operated a janky boom pole for us.
No, that's a true friend.
An umbrella.
That's a friend.
You're like strapped like an H1 to like an umbrella stick.
It was so ghetto.
It was really rigged, but it worked. It worked good.
Anyone that wants to hire us, we don't do that anymore.
But the video came out great. The video came out great despite the I guess challenges that you had there. And I think it holds up really well in terms of what you guys can do. And I'm sure you've progressed light years from that, but that video says a lot.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much.
And order some pancakes, guys. Those pancakes are on point.
They actually were really good.
They're amazing pancakes. Absolutely.
We ate so many pancakes. It was insane.
And I had them dry, like as in like no butter, no syrup, like straight.
No, they were good.
They were amazing.
They were really good.
Had like a little cinnamon nutmeg,
So if you don't know, she makes protein pancakes out of protein powder and some kind of cheese and magic, and you just take them out the container and cook them, and yeah, they're great.
Yeah, it's like liquid. So all you gotta do is like pour it right on your skillet, and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
So did you have, so first of all, you have a full-time job right now?
I do. Yeah. I have a 9 to 5. I work in IT, at a hospital. That's my main, but all this is that we're talking about is what I do on the side.
All right. So how are you managing your time? Cause I feel like you're doing a lot.
That's a great question. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, like how are you doing this?
So I would say a couple tools that have really helped me to manage my time. Google Calendar is the probably the biggest one, but we were talking before we started recording about Calendly, and Calendly is a huge thing. If you're not familiar with it, it helps you to set up times when you're available, and then you send people a link and they can pick from those times that you're available so that they can book you, whether you're going to do a podcast interview or you're going to just chat for 15 minutes to get to know them or whatever, relationship building, whatever you're going to do. A huge fan of Calendly. So that's helped me immensely. And then I really try to do as much content as I can in as short of a time as I can, and then repurpose that content. So for me, when I do my daily podcast, I use Google Alerts to track via RSS feed. Every time somebody writes an article about Instagram on the internet, I'm looking at it and seeing, is it relevant? Is something I'm going to talk about? And then I use about 15, 20 minutes per day to record and upload my show. And it goes out to multiple networks, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. And then I also have started using Buffer. Are you guys familiar with Buffer?
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's been huge for me. If you're not familiar, Buffer is a tool. It sits in your toolbar, or you can have it on your phone. And whenever you come across an article or something you want to tweet or post about on Instagram or whatever, it lets you post to multiple networks at the same time. And you can change the message for each network, social media platform that you're going to post to. So if it's something that I'm going to write for LinkedIn, I'll say, oh, this was huge for my career boosting or something. If it's Twitter, like the language is going to be different for each platform, but you can do it at once and you can schedule it out. So you can set up that content to post. So if I had a podcast going live on Monday, I could set it to tweet about it at Monday at 11 a.m., 1 p.m., and 3 p.m. So while I'm at work, I'm not even stressing about it. I just know it's being taken care of and people will find it because I set that up ahead of time. So really the tools have enabled me to accomplish a lot in a short amount of time.
Awesome.
Real quick before we get any further. Hey, Calendly, I just tagged you. Sponsor the show.
Yeah.
I sell you guys like I work there. It's the best software.
And
do you remember
on the screen?
Do you remember life before Calendly? You would say like, oh, I'm available at 2 p.m. on Friday and 4 p.m. on Friday. And the person would write back, I'm available at 1 p.m. on Monday and 4 p.m. on Monday. You're like, that's not what I said, right? But with Calendly, you skip all that, right? And what's great is, and we were talking about this before, you can put all the questions ahead of time, right? So tell me your Instagram name, tell me your bio, tell me what you want to talk about. And the person just fills out everything, and then you have it all, and they get a calendar invite, and then it just works. So really, really great platform.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's my favorite by far.
So your new thing, well, not your new thing, but your side and your passion is helping small businesses or educating them on how to use Instagram to kind of grow their business online, right? So what's some of the like frequently asked questions that you get from like, new people or new businesses starting out, or like what are they most confused about, I guess?
Or maybe some tips that you give.
Yeah, so a lot there. I noticed that a lot of people get frustrated right out of the gate because they follow famous people who get like millions of likes, and then they'll post a picture and they just get a few likes. And it's funny because before Instagram, like we never compared likes. Like I never thought, oh, you got this many and I got less than that. So it wasn't a thing. But with Instagram now, we really spend a lot of time thinking about that. So one of the things that I really try to work with small business owners and anyone who uses the platform is don't compare yourself. Like there's no sense comparing yourself to LeBron James or like whoever famous people you follow, because they're famous and they're in a different league, in a different world than you. Focus on making content that people who follow you like. That's all you have to do. And you can use the Instagram analytics to see what's done really well on your account, and then do more of that. It might mean that you have to hire a professional photographer. It might mean that you have to bring in Strix Media to help you make some really good content and cut that up. But that's what's going to resonate, and it's going to look a lot better and more professional. And that's what you want. And then you can repurpose that content. You can use it again later down the line. You can use it for different platforms, and that's okay. So that's one of the things that I really try to stress with people is it's going to take some time and some investment and a little bit of work, but you will see results.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an overnight type of thing. There are some anomalies in that. But yeah, it takes a lot of work usually. And, you have to just be pushing out content that is valuable and that resonates with the people that that are following you,
Yeah. And I notice a lot of times people just want to get on there and sell. Like, okay, I do X. How can I get people to buy more of my thing? And like, that's not what it's for. Like when I pick up my phone, I'm taking a break from work. I'm scrolling through my feed to see what my friends are doing, what, things are going on. I'm not looking for things to buy necessarily. When I'm looking for things to buy, I go to Amazon. Those are different. And I'm not saying that you can't buy, because plenty of brands, if you're Nike, if you're Coach, absolutely big brands can sell. But if you are just a small business owner or you're an individual sole proprietor, don't approach it from that way. Make people think that guy's doing something interesting. He's really working hard at whatever it is. What is he doing exactly? And then get them interested in what it is that you're showing.
For sure. It's almost like reverse. A lot of these people think that they can just start upfront selling, but meanwhile, it's like the selling is like an aftermath of just bringing value and just being engaging on social media. It's like the sale happens because of that stuff.
Exactly. And one of the things I notice a lot of people get frustrated with is there's only a couple of places where you can do links, right? You can do links in your bio. If you have 10,000 followers, you can do the swipe up. But I spend a lot of time explaining to people why you don't have links in the caption, why it doesn't work that way. Instagram designed it. It's supposed to be a visual, beautiful experience. That's what they want you to have. They want you to bring you closer to the people and that and that matter to you, and you have access to them all the time using this device. It's not necessarily about being able to buy through the click of a link at any time. So a little bit different mentality, but that's one of the things I really try to stress with people when they're new.
For sure. And just real quick, just to kind of piggyback off that whole link thing, what do you think about Linktree? Have you used it?
So I personally haven't. It does make sense. I think it is a really good concept. What I think it can be a little overwhelming though. And when I say that, the ones that I've clicked on, sometimes there'll be like 20 links in there. And I'm like, where's the one I'm looking for? So I think if you do it and you just have, an about or the latest podcast or whatever, like a couple of things, I think it can work really well.
For sure. And then just for our listeners and our viewers, Linktree is just a really cool way because Instagram only gives you one link in your profile. So if you essentially Linktree is that link, and then when you click on that, it gives you like a little mini web page that gives you access to more than one link. So you turn one link into X amount of links you want, and then again, to Daniel's point, only put like 3 to 4.
Right. Don't go crazy with it. There are other places where you can put links. You can do the swipe up if you have 10,000 followers,
Right.
and you can add buttons if you have an Instagram business profile, which I definitely recommend everybody do. I've had some people tell me, oh, well, I have a personal account and that's what I use for my business. And if I change to a business account, my reach will go down. And, I've heard that that's a bad idea. That's not a thing, but also you do get access to buttons like to make reservations or to, call in orders or all sorts of other buttons that become accessible to you so that people can do things. So I would, if you're going to look at the Linktree, augment it with those buttons. Absolutely.
So that's what my question was before that I couldn't remember. It wasn't really a question. It's more of a statement and kind of getting your feedback on it and what you think. So let's use the gift cards sticker as an example, right? Just because it's the newest one and it appeared this morning. Great feature, right? Really excited for one of our clients. They're a hair salon. Go to click on it and it goes, oh, I'm only limited to X, Y, and Z companies who are integrated with Instagram or have a relationship with them.
Interesting.
Did it really? So, I would like to see that. I don't have that option. I would love to see that sticker if you can send me a screenshot or something.
Yeah, I'll let's see if people can.
I actually got that a few days ago. Now that I'm remembering.
I don't know if anyone's gonna be able to see. I'm gonna pull it up to the camera.
It's a little out of focus.
That don't work. So basically you click on the gift card sticker and then it says choose a partner: Cabbage, Raise, Square, Yifty, Yoast, and Loylap. That's a weird business name. So
there's literally only 6. Wow.
So there's only 6, right? So then it's weird that they're going to offer this and then stifle it by just saying you can only use a certain type of software to integrate it. And same with their food orders. They're all the ones that you know and love, Chow Now, DoorDash, Grubhub, things of that nature. But they take 30% from these small businesses. It doesn't seem like a great business plan at this point.
So what's funny to me is I actually have been checking and I didn't have these stickers up until right now. So that's actually very funny. I'll need to sort of dig in here and read the help a little bit more, but I see what you're talking about. And I'm surprised that it's limited the way that you're describing. Not saying that you're wrong, obviously, but I just definitely need to look into this a little bit more.
Yeah, because it could be helpful for someone that doesn't have the swipe up feature.
Absolutely.
So super interesting. All right. So when you were getting into how long have you been doing, educating people on Instagram and social media in general, would you say?
I'd say about 4 years, 4 or 5 years, maybe.
Now, was there ever a time that you might have messed up or realized that you could have been better and learned from it?
All the time, man. All the time. I remember this was before I was sort of really into social media, but I was at a conference and I was listening to the keynote speakers and everybody on this panel was old and white. And I thought this panel is terrible. So I tweeted, and I accidentally tweeted it from my company's account, which I should not have done. Next time I come to this conference, I really hope they get some young people who aren't so old and so white. Oh. And, I got a nasty tweet. This was probably 2011, I would say. I got a nasty tweet back. Like that wasn't appropriate. And I thought, well, screw you. Like, what do you know? And so then I sort of realized the folly of what I'd done. So I hastily tried to delete everything as quick as I could. But I definitely make mistakes on social all the time. And I'm glad you guys are having a good laugh because, no matter how much you portray yourself as an expert, you got to get the stupid, dumb mistakes out of the way because the sooner you do those, you're not going to do them again. Right. And not to say that I haven't, made mistakes. I've worked on clients where we do a video shoot, and after the video shoot, I realized I never pushed record. Like, things like that happen, and I've had it happen where it's been multiple times at like different shoots that I forgot to push record. So sometimes you learn from your mistakes, and sometimes you don't, right? But that. That's what comes to mind when you ask that question.
No, that was a great answer. I mean, a lot of people will be like, I don't mess up. Not a lot of them, but you know what I mean? So it's good to hear something how you could treat it so lightheartedly, looking back at it, I guess.
It's been a while. In that moment, I was definitely sweating. Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly. Full on panic sweat. So when did you ever have any mentors or digital mentors? And I guess that's a two-part question. Or do you currently?
So I definitely do have quite a few mentors. I would say through 2012, 2013, I discovered Gary Vaynerchuk, and I definitely look up to him a lot. Had a couple conversations with him. I think we've talked probably 2 or 3 times, a couple times on the phone as well. Super nice guy. I think I sort of reached okay, I've got from him what I'm going to get. Like now I need more specific mentors. So I've worked with a couple of people. One of my friends, her name is Jen Lehner, Lehner, and she's really been pushing me for a long time to expand and do more. She's what got me introduced into the Amazon world in the first place. And she has a huge Facebook group called The Front Row, and it's all about inspiring people to use the tools and technology so that they can build an online audience and build authority. And so that's been really encouraging for me. A couple other people too. I have someone that I talk to regularly named Eric Olson, and he has a podcast called Journey to 100 Million. And he owns a digital agency, and he has built it from the ground up. His goal is to create that marketing agency to reach $100 million of business annually. And so to kind of talk through some of the challenges that I faced or get his feedback has been really good. So mentors have played a big part in mine. I think for me, one of the things I've learned is it's slightly more helpful to have a mentor who's only like 3 or 4 or 5 steps ahead of me, as opposed to like 1,000 steps, because I get kind of discouraged. Like if I look at Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm never going to be at that guy's level. It doesn't really help me all the time to look at what he's doing. It's a little bit more helpful for me to look at somebody who's just a few paces ahead of me and can remember where I was or can give me some advice that's relevant. But I also have a lot of trouble sometimes taking that advice and applying it in a way that makes sense for me, right? Like in a way that I can do and I'm going to enjoy. If you tell me, Daniel, I think you should do X, Y, and Z, but I hate those tasks, even though you told me to do it, I'm not going to enjoy it. And after a while, I'm probably going to stop. But if I can take those ideas and tasks and like kind of make them my own and flip them into a way that makes perfect sense for me, then I'm going to ride that. And I'm going to keep telling you how great that suggestion was and how much I really took it and owned it. That made all the difference.
That's awesome.
Awesome. So real quick, you have Instagram as like your main tool for educating small businesses, but you also have this other side to you with this whole Alexa skills section, and this is like relatively new for me anyway. I'm just curious, like how you got into that and how you got into the whole Project Voice thing. If you could talk about that.
Sure. So if I can explain about voice, what that means in a nutshell, right? So we all have these devices, whether you have an Amazon Alexa or you have OK Google or you have it on your phone, whatever device that you have. What's really interesting about this world is, right? Like say you're on social media, chances are the people that you're attracting are ages like 14 to maybe 40 or give or take maybe 45. You're missing out on that younger demographic, like younger than 13, and you're missing out on that older demographic of older than 45. Those people aren't dead. Those people are, looking to consume information, take in knowledge. They just don't spend all their time staring at these. And so in this voice world, this opens up a much wider audience to people who don't necessarily even know how to read, right? You could be 4 years old and you can say, hey, Alexa, I need this or that. And that's okay, right? And older people who don't really have great eyesight, they can still use these devices. So when I sort of realized that this world opened up a bigger audience, I got really excited about that concept. So I got involved with it because my friend Jen Lehner that I mentioned before, she had an Amazon skill for Alexa, and she would give daily news about all kinds of different technology tools and social media platforms. And I thought that's really interesting, but I don't know anybody who uses Alexa that way. So I don't know why I would want to. And some time went by and I thought, you know what? If this isn't a thing that anybody is using yet, that could be my thing. And then by the time people are using it, I'm already there. I sort of had this like idea. So I wanted to make it very niche and very specific. And I wanted to do it around Instagram. I sort of told that story before, but that's really what got me into this was bringing something unique in a way that I thought could provide value before other people sort of caught on that this would be a big deal.
Hell yeah. And you were also nominated for an award there, right?
So yeah, this year, every year, well, the past 2 years, I've gone to Project Voice, which is where the Amazon team and the Google team and the Samsung team get together and talk about new features that they're coming out with, how they're leveraging the platforms, and kind of meet one-on-one with us. And they do keynotes and presentations, and there's an awards dinner. And I was nominated for the flash briefing of the year, which is what my kind of skill is that I was talking about. When I say skill, the world calls them apps. Amazon calls them skills. Just same concept, just a little different. So I was nominated for the flash briefing of the year. I didn't win, but that's okay. It was just nice to be nominated, nice to be included. And sometimes it is challenging to create daily content, but it also pushes you and teaches you a lot about consistency. When you really focus on doing something every day, you force yourself to grow. So I've learned a lot from that experience, and it was really nice to be included.
That's awesome.
Can you talk a little bit about creating content every day,
Sure.
especially in something that's as high level as that versus taking a photo?
Sure. So I use audio content, right? I'm recording myself I use a tool called Audacity. If you're not familiar, it's just a free audio recorder, but you could certainly use GarageBand or something else. And what I use are Google Alerts. I look at news stories, and then I pick the best of the best to what I'm going to talk about. Then I map it out in my head. Some people choose to write a script. I personally am not really that way. I like to sort of riff and have conversations and be a little silly and laugh at myself. But if I say a lot, which I do, I do prefer to cut those out. But that's sort of how I plan out the content. And then I sit down every night at 9:00 and I force myself to do it. And my wife knows, hey, did you record yet? No, I didn't. Okay, well, I know you're going to disappear for 15, 20 minutes. And so it's forced me to have a good schedule and make sure I stick to it. And when I don't do it, I feel like I missed out today. And then my audience will send me messages like, hey, Daniel, it seems like are you okay? What's going on? Which is really nice. And I appreciate that my audience is that tuned in to notice, but they expect to get information from me, which I want to provide them. So it's taught me a lot about making sure that I'm consistent, making sure I show up and trying to do my best. And some days I'll record and I'll think to myself, that was not a great episode. I could have done a lot better. Well, you know what? I'm going to do it better the next day. Sometimes people send me messages, that episode was great. And I'm like, was it? So, it reminds me that, what you think is good isn't always what everyone else thinks is good. But I always want to try to improve it.
Awesome.
So cool. So actually I want to take this another step further. Going back to now Instagram, right? How often do you think a small business should be posting on Instagram, like consistently?
That's a great question. I would say that once per day in the feed would be ideal, especially if it is something very photographic, a very well taken picture, something slightly artistic. And I would say stories, 5 to 7 per day. Could be more, could be less, but I would say consistently to go for a few stories. Don't go crazy. Sometimes when you look at someone's story and you see that little dashed line and they're so tiny and you're like, how many stories are here? I'm not going to watch all these. And maybe some people will watch all of those. But personally for me, I think less is more if it's really good content that people are going to be excited to watch.
Yeah, I agree. When you see all those dots on someone's thing, I'm just like, oh God, I'm not going through all this. And I just immediately swipe.
Or when it's someone talking to themselves for like hours. Oh my God.
Can I ask you guys, how many would you watch of that? Like if you open it up and you see that person has those tiny, tiny lines, would you watch 3 before you swipe out? Would you watch 2 before you swipe out? What would you say?
If they were teaching me something or about to do like some really funny skit and I knew it was like a continuation of, then maybe I would keep watching until I, either got bored or already knew the information. But if it's something that I'm not interested in or related to, I might get to 1 to 2 before I'm like, okay, I'm out.
Right. Which is certainly fair. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I would say about like probably one to 2, and then like 2 other like really quick clicks just to make sure I'm not missing out.
Yeah. One of the things I really wish that Instagram had is a way where there were subtitles in there, because sometimes I'll want to watch, but I don't have my headphones nearby and like, okay, I'll check this out later, but chances are I'm not going to. So that's definitely a thing I think should be added hopefully one day. I know people are using Apple Clips. I'm not an Apple user, but Apple Clips lets you add subtitles to it, which is one of my favorite things in the Apple ecosystem. So if you're interested in kind of making better stories, check out Apple Clips to add subtitles to it. Then you can post those to your story.
Yeah, and I feel like that kind of got brushed under the rug after it was announced in the app world, because it supposedly is very powerful, and I believe it uses Siri's
word
like
engine,
knowledge. Yeah. But some people might agree that it's not that great, Siri, just in general.
I mean, it's not going to be perfect, right? But at least to give the person who's watching an idea if they want to watch more. I mean, it's great. And that's one of the things that I really like about this voice world, right? We're walking around all the time now with wireless earbuds so that we can hear things, right? And whether you have AirPods or something else, you want to be connected and at least keep one in, and it does keep your attention, but you can't wear them all the time. So that's where I think there's that gap.
Yeah, most definitely.
For sure. So while you were, building up yourself and building up your brand, at what point did you find that like you want to continue doing this? Like what was that like aha moment where you said, wow, I actually have something here and I want to continue to do this?
Yeah. Was it like a viral podcast? Like, well, not necessarily viral. Was it like growth in your channels, or what was that? Okay. Like, I'm onto something.
That's a really good question. So I had a couple of things happen in 2014. I did have a blog post go viral on LinkedIn, which was really odd because I sort of wrote about how I worked at a company and my boss quit. And I looked around and realized like, maybe I should leave too. And for some reason that exploded on LinkedIn. And the next day I woke up and it was like, Bill Gates had the #1 article on LinkedIn yesterday and Daniel Hill had the #2 article. And I was like, that's weird. And so, I can't say that anything really
an article though, like
came from it. Yeah.
Just saying that one sentence, I'm like, oh, I kind of want to like read that perspective.
Oh, thank you. That was an interesting moment. And then I went to social media marketing world in 2016 for the first time. And I happened to be online after the long conference was almost over. And I was getting coffee and I was just talking to the person online behind me about how long the line was. And we talked and exchanged information. Nice lady. And she emailed me probably about 2 or 3 weeks later and said, hey, I'm doing an event. Would you like to come speak? It's in Chicago. I think it would be perfect if you came and talked about stories. And I was like, yes, please. And so I had this moment, like when I do meet people, things can come from that. Maybe not every time, but the fact is somebody is recognizing what I'm trying to do and where I'm trying to go with my life. And she said, like, we'll pay for your travel to come out and it'll be great. And you'll meet a ton of people. And I ended up doing that 2 years in a row at that same event. And it was bigger each time. And her name's Lauren Davis, super nice lady. And I was just so happy for that kind of relationship. And it gave me the confidence to say like, people do want what I'm trying to do and I can do this a lot more. And so that was a huge moment for me.
Very cool.
Awesome. Now, the flip side of that, was there anyone while you were building yourself up or any clients or any friends or family that kind of said, Daniel, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? You have a full-time job. Why are you focusing on this other shit? Do you have any naysayers? Do you have anyone that said like, what you're doing is stupid?
Yeah, I do. I would say that, no, because a lot of people aren't on social media. Like the friends that I have who are maybe like 10 years older than me do not understand social media. And they'll say all the time, like, I don't understand why people walk around spending all this time staring at the phones. What's wrong with just looking people in the eye, have a conversation face to face. I'm like, yeah, okay. It's not like social media is going to catch on. Like, and I try to make them realize times change and we change along with it. You might watch TV to get your news and that's fine. But if you think about it, the networks are telling you what they think is news, right? But if I go on Instagram and I see what my friends all did last night, that's news to me and that's more interesting. So I try to help people who don't get it to appreciate the value of customized information in a way that you want and how valuable that is, because a lot of people just don't get that concept.
That's so true.
Yeah, I think you put that really well.
Thank you.
So what is one thing that you maybe wish you knew when you started?
That's a good question. I think one of the things that's really important is you have to ask for it. People aren't going to just come up to you all the time and be like, Daniel, I think you would be perfect for X. When that happens, it is great. But a lot of times you just need to insert yourself in the conversation politely, find a way to do it where you're not bragging about yourself. You're not only just hyping yourself up all the time. But one of the things I've had good success with is looking on Twitter for conferences that are looking for speakers and applying and just saying, here's what I do, here's what I talk about, and filling out that application process and just seeing what happens. And that's been a really interesting one because I've read that if conferences want you to speak, they'll find you and reach out. Like, okay, maybe if you're a big name, that does happen if you're someone famous, but if you're not, can I just ask? And can't I say to them, hey, I would love to come speak at your conference. I'm comfortable talking about topics X, Y, and Z. If you'd like to have me come, and if you can pay for my travel, I will 100% be there, and I'll introduce myself to everyone, and I'll make content for you, and I'll do whatever you'd like. I would love to be at your event. And if they say yes, great. And if they don't, that's okay. And if the event's in New York, well, hey, I live in New York, so I'm happy to, come by and spend that time, and you don't have to pay for my travel. Just let me be part of it and meet some people, and who knows where that's going to go. So that's one of the things that's really important, is to find a way to put yourself out there, not in their face way, but here's how I can provide value for you. Here's how I can help you to get where you want to go. And that also helps me.
Awesome. Real quick. So for people that say like you're a new small business coming up and you want to jump on this Instagram bandwagon, right? What's some of the first things that they should do to start positioning themselves as like a go-to resource for their industry?
That's a really good question. Can you give me an example of what kind of business you think might?
Oh, okay.
Because I think it's different from, say, if you're a bar versus if you're a media company, or you're a lawyer versus you're a gym,
Sure.
Yeah, I'm like, let's throw a curveball here.
You were, I always say yoga studio, so I don't want to say that again. I always say that. I can't think of a good niche.
Okay, so this is a good one. So this is where it makes it a little bit more interesting. So let's talk about like a boutique or like a store that sells like clothing or like gifts, and what they can do, online if they have an e-commerce store and a brick and mortar.
Right. So I would say that first off, the most important thing is going to be really professional pictures of those gifts, of those dresses, or whatever it is that they sell at the boutique. Instagram has the ability to link your Instagram to Shopify, so people can tap on and buy directly. So I do think that's a key component. I think there are two ways that I would approach it. Either you want to go for the gifts angle, like you mentioned. So if it's a women's boutique, you want husbands to be comfortable with the process of buying gifts for their wife in a way that makes sense. So I might go down that road. And I think that would actually be really smart, because for me, I know that my wife wants a gift, but what on earth am I going to buy her? I have no idea. I don't know what she likes. I don't know what she's into. And say I pick a thing and she hates it. Now I feel like I wasted time and money. So if a boutique said, okay, we're going to be the boutique that helps guys make gift choices, for instance, and then they help and it's an easy process, and maybe there's even a good return policy so that guys can get it, and if it's not right, but I would approach it from that angle. That might be one way. Or the other way would be to really focus on helping women feel good about themselves, because I noticed that women oftentimes feel like they don't look like a celebrity. They don't have the same body type or whatever. And so that can be really discouraging. And maybe the core message is, even though you don't necessarily have all the things that famous person does, you can still feel confident in yourself and in your skin, and we will help you do that. So it's not necessarily the dresses or the gifts are like a component of that, but the underlying message is we want to help. And so I think that probably relates for any of the business types that we were talking about, but you just want to help whoever your target audience is to accomplish something that they weren't able to accomplish on their own.
So what's really big about what you said, it's the idea of like eliciting a feeling you get with that product or service that you're offering, right? So you said, okay, cool, take high quality photos of that dress, but from the other angle, you're saying, okay, well, what's that dress going to do for you? Like, are you going to feel better about, like that's like the main selling part. And that's the one thing you're saying to focus on. And I think it's really important, because it's really, you're not just showing a product and saying, here's my product, buy it. You're saying, how can this product change your life? Or how can you now have a different perspective with this service or product?
Exactly.
Love that.
Yeah,
Love that.
awesome. And then to touch on something that Daniel just mentioned, if you do have an e-commerce store and an Instagram account, and it happens to be built on Shopify, You can integrate that into your Facebook page as well as your Shopify page by creating, I think it's called a collection on the back end. It's not too it's not too high level of a thing to do, but it definitely will take you a couple minutes. And you can find that on, I think, Facebook Blueprint, as well as on YouTube. And it's definitely something you should be doing because you're able to tag in your timeline post itself as well as the story, right, Daniel, if I'm remembering correctly?
I think it's only in the feed. I'm not aware that it's in story, but I could be wrong about that. I think it's only in the feed.
Remember correctly. Okay, so yeah, you can tag it in your feed. So and it doesn't need to be just a product photo. It can be a lifestyle photo with the product, which does better 10 times out of 10 times to show off how someone would use it, how they would wear it. Maybe a video. I think you can even tag a video.
That'd be cool.
But you can definitely do that on Facebook. You can definitely tag products and videos as well as lives, which is really cool.
Yeah. And to better clarify that example, say if you have a lifestyle photo of, I don't know, a woman walking down the street and she's wearing a jacket, a necklace, and shoes, you can tag literally all three products in each one. And then, like I said, this is the shirt, this is the necklace, if this is the shoes, if you want this outfit, here it is. You can go ahead and buy it. So that's a really cool way of showing off your products, again, in a way that you're showing like what the experience you can bring with these products.
Right. And that even comes across really well when people work with influencers for that. When you see someone that clearly is knows their way around fashion wearing a dress like that, and you've tagged that product in it, it resonates really well.
Awesome. Do you do any kind of services in helping small businesses with Instagram ads at all? Or is it on the building of Instagram?
Yeah, more on the first part. I don't really know a huge amount about the ads, and that is an area that I know just enough to be dangerous, but that's a huge, huge area. And I noticed that the people who are really good on Facebook ads are the ones who really know a lot about Instagram ads. So I've sort of stayed away from that area, but I have seen where people have released studies about how well they've done with Instagram story ads and how that's been a really pivotal piece for people.
Just make sure that content is made for it.
Exactly.
Because nobody wants to watch a tiny video.
That is so true.
And I think that I hated vertical video when it first released, but when it's done right, it's awesome.
Exactly.
Because I don't want to turn my all right. So let's go back like 10 years. Remember when everyone comment? I know we only have a couple viewers right now. Comment if you remember when everyone complained for days, months, years about the iPhone not having a horizontal keyboard, and then tell me how many of you guys use that keyboard.
I never use it.
Does it still have it? That's the better question.
And I complained about it. I was that complainer.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't go sideways. This is stupid.
Oh, it does. It still has it. I've never typed like this ever. And we were just all used to our NV2s that when the iPhones came out, we were just like, what do we do? And
I remember the NV2. That was the one it flipped open, right? That one.
It was an awesome phone. That was a great phone.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just thought that was a fun, nobody uses that. Like,
that does seem archaic now looking at it. It does seem like
dude, it's weird, especially like on Zach's phone. Your phone is gigantic.
I know.
It's like an iPad.
Comment right now if you ever use your phone sideways. I'm just curious. There's only 3 people here, but whatever.
No, but we'll have some viewers after this.
I almost never use it. I would say for YouTube, I rotate it, and other than that, I don't bother.
Yeah, and then now because you can put a vertical or a horizontal video in IGTV, that's the only time where like it comes in. I'll like rotate it sideways because
I watch a lot of Facebook Watch recently.
Yeah,
because I'm on Facebook, and if I can get stuff fed to, that's where YouTube needs to step up. Their suggestions are great when you're in the platform of what you would like to watch, or if someone posted something new. But on Facebook, they're just so good at wasting my time. Like, I'll just be in there, and like all the YouTubers post there now because they finally released monetization. And like yesterday alone, I watched like 6 videos on this exotic car channel.
Well, what's great about why I think it like forces you to keep watching the next piece of content is because as soon as the one video is done, the next one goes right in, and like you're in. You just get fed it.
And it makes a little film reel sound. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a movie.
So what's interesting about that is for me, I personally would not watch more than a few videos on my phone. Like I have a TV for a reason. Like I'd rather sit down and kind of watch those on the big screen, but I think I'm in the minority in that. And I think the more younger people are, they're more just accustomed to watching long form video on a smaller device. And that's just 100% normal now.
Yeah, and it's funny because I am probably split 50-50 on that, but I always catch myself watching a 17-minute video on my phone while sitting in front of my television. You know? Like, and I'm just like in a hole, and I'm like, oh, this video is so good, or it's so funny. So it's definitely interesting, and you make a good point there about possibly like the younger you are, the more comfortable that you are on a phone, right? So like technology aside, just like being just on it all day every day, and that's like kind of like, I don't know, probably one of the only devices you have when you're younger, or probably maybe one of the first devices that you get.
Yeah,
I think for a lot of people too, it's about privacy. Like you don't want this to be a shared video experience. You just want to focus, not that you're watching anything wrong, it's just that's what you chose to watch, and you want that customized selection, and you don't want everyone else being part of that. So I think that might be a factor. Whereas, you know, if we grew up in a TV where you had to share what you watch with your younger brother or younger sister, it just, TV is like a kind of a community experience. So you just think that's how you expect to watch it.
Yeah.
Wow, what an interesting perspective, because that's so true. Because like it used to be such like a crowd thing to do, like a group thing to do. Let's all watch TV. Like,
right.
Dad has control of the TV all the time, or whatever. And then and now, like if you look at a living room, 20 years later, it's like everyone's sitting out their phone, listening to their own, they have their own immersed experience, and they don't have to, I don't know, like settle for something less to watch someone else's stuff.
Right.
Like they watch whatever the hell they want to watch.
Right. And that's the customization. Did you guys see the Ronnie Chang special on Netflix? Did you see that?
No.
Okay. So he's talking about how when it comes to watching TV, we can't just watch TV. We have to have our phone, and then we have to have the iPad, and then we have to have the laptop. We like to have as many screens as possible between us and the TV. And he's like, but there's a problem. There's that gap between your iPhone and your face. And you know what they came out with? Apple Watch. And he puts his phone his watch right by his face. And it's just so funny because I never realized, but sometimes I do watch TV while I'm holding my laptop, while I'm looking at my phone. Like, why do we do that? Right. And it's just, times have changed. It's just different now.
Yeah. I mean, we always, in our early pitches, when we first started our business, a lot of people be like, well, why would I do, Facebook ads? I'm like, well, when you're watching TV and a commercial comes on, what do you do? They're like, oh, I pick up phone. I'm like, okay. So like, where does your business want to be? Oh, on phones. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Exactly.
Sign right here, please. All right. So I think we're at an hour. I appreciate your time, Daniel. Where can everyone find you, find your Alexa skill, find your podcast? What are the names of, just plug yourself in 50 different ways.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, at Daniel Hill Media. That's the best way. It's actually right down there in the bottom in the corner, which is cool. And the name of my podcast is the Instagram Stories Podcast, which you can get on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and you can search for the Instagram Stories on Amazon to find me.
Very cool. Quick question, so we could wrap this one up, because I forgot to ask this, and now that you mentioned it, where do you host your podcast?
I host it on my own website. I have danielhillmedia.com. I try to post blog posts there. I actually have, I use a product called Zapier. So when I make a new Instagram post, it turns it into a blog post on my website. And so I host myself.
Okay.
Awesome.
We use Buzzsprout, and we've seen a lot. We used Podbean before this, and it was kind of archaic. It felt like HTML1. And Buzzsprout, the analytics are just amazing. Do you get analytics when hosting on your own site?
So no, not normally, but I use something called Blueberry. I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's BLURRY. And you just add your RSS feed and they start giving you some analytics. The free tier, which I have, is basic, but it gives you enough information to kind of see what episodes are doing better than others and what works. For me, like, I just looked at it as I'm already paying for hosting for a website. I'm not going to pay for podcast hosting as well, but that's just me. And I definitely see why people would make decisions to have a separate podcast host. It definitely makes sense.
Sure. Very cool.
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys again for tuning into another episode of the Creative Collective Show. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on Facebook Live, comment live. If you're watching it on a replay, comment #replay. If you're a creator in the New Jersey, New York City area, check out our Facebook group, The Creative Collective. It's NJ/NYC Creative Collective. It's on Facebook. There's 1,000+ creators currently. We're trying to get that number pumped up so we can have more connections, more gigs, more selling of gear, more constructive criticism. Use the group as, kind of however you want. Just
it's really there's so many smart people in that group, by the way. There's so many creative, talented people in there. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I think it was a great byproduct of our networking events. So it really worked out well. And if you don't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. So you can see how we're doing in quarantine.
And get the latest updates on our podcasts. Head on over to strixmedia.com/podcast. There it is right there. Daniel Hills will be going up soon. If you haven't caught this, but well, soon as in next few months.
It might be like 10 weeks. Yeah, we just dropped an episode today with Rosie Matteo. She is a owner of an agency that specializes in cannabis. So check it out. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm happy we finally got this thing out of the way because I was so upset that we couldn't post it because there's so much knowledge dropped last time. But this one was it outdid it.
Hell yeah, we did it.
We will see you guys again soon.
Later.